What is good, everybody? This is the most interactive sports talk show anywhere. It's Offsides. Mark, Ryan, and Diesel, and we are the Fan Upstate, rolling on until 7 p.m. today. Can I get an amen? Wow.
Can we get Mark a throat lozenge? Because his voice is crackling.
We've got one
like
right
a fireplace in here.
We've got one right here. Had no idea that was coming. Had not spoken like that yet today. Let's see here. Let's insert. Oh, that was one of the most pleasant insertions of my life. Fantastic to be here. Fantastic to be here with you guys, rolling on until 7 p.m. today. Diesel, what's good, man? How's life? I walk into the studio today and
I'm trying to catch up because the rundown came in at 2:57 again. So I'm kind of going nuts right now because I'm just now getting an idea of what we're talking about on the show today.
Yeah, I come into the studio today and Diesel's all like in Bob Vila mode. I walk into the studio and he's got ladders up and lights and wiring and all 9 yards. Yeah, man, it was one of those days, Diesel, where the rundown came together late, was kicking around a lot of different ideas, finalized things at kind of last minute today, but we're still going to rock it out with a great one. 844-FAN-PHONE is the number. That's 844-FAN-FONE. That's 844-326-3663 is the number. The text line is there for you at 71307. Just start your text with the word fan, and away you go on the show. Coming up on the show today, we've got Kelly Ford of K Ford Ratings that are going to give you prognostications on the 2023 season. He's got one of the best statistical models out there today. Is Clemson still in the midst of a dynasty? We will take your dynastic definition at 3:40 on the show. At 4:20, what would Shane Beamer have to do to go down as the all-time Gamecock GOAT? You know, we got a listener suggestion. We take your suggestions all the time on the show, but we got a good suggestion from P1 listener Spur Daddy a couple weeks ago. I don't know what it's going to take to get Spur Daddy to come out to a live show, but he gave us a suggestion. He said, Mark, why don't you mix in a few topics that you don't normally talk about in a 10 to 15-minute segment. So we're going to do that today, and I'm going to tell you that statistically and historically, what NHL teams remaining truly do have a chance to win it all. We've got the top 5 at 5. We've got Truth Serum, and we have you here on the most interactive sports radio show anywhere. Is where we go today. So, all sorts of fired up to start the show. I wanted to do so with this particular topic. Nothing ever stays the same in life, right? Like that is a known and that is a given. The wise man who said you're either getting better or you're getting worse is a smart man, because that is always the case. There is no staying the same. And you might say, well, Mark Ryan, I work in this business and we've had the same sales for 5 years in a row. And if so, I would say to you, congratulations, you've weathered the pandemic. But because inflation is skyrocketing, if you're only doing the same level of sales, you're actually losing ground, right? So I say there is no staying the same. There's getting better. There's getting worse. I say when we cease getting better, we cease being good. If you're no longer climbing and growing, you stop being good at what you do, right? Like, I have had some unbelievable opportunities here in the upstate, but in every single one of them, all I want to do, I'm not interested in, hey, look at all these great things that we've done. What I am interested in is, how do we keep growing? How do we keep getting better, right? With every opportunity that I have, it's like, how do I make this bigger? How do I make this better? What's the next step? How do I grow this into the next thing? And I don't know is that healthy? Do you guys consider that a healthy mindset? Because it is true that I'm never really satisfied. And I don't know if that's healthy. You know, like it's like when something great happens, I'm like, okay, that was nice. That was cool. Let's celebrate that for a night. But then I'm like Bill Belichick, Nick Saban, no days off, LFG. Let's go tomorrow.
Oh, I thought you just meant you turn into a crabby SOB.
Well, that too, Diesel. That too. You've seen that on a couple of days as well, perhaps more than a couple. But anyway, I want to look at each sport in our lexicon in America. And I want to get your opinion on stock up, stock down, or neutral in terms of where that sport is trending right now. And I want your thoughts on this. 844-FAN phone. That's 844-326-3663 is the number. Let's open with the obvious. Stock up, stock down, or neutral, the National Football League. The stock is way up. The stock is way up for the NFL. And you don't need me to tell you this. You know, the NFL is killing everybody's argument that, okay, ratings are down throughout sports. Everyone's cord cutting. Everyone's watching sports on different devices. So everyone's, ratings for sports are down. The NFL's killing that argument because the NFL had a 40 television rating in the 1980s, and they still have a 40 television rating today. In a market where everyone else is losing rating share, the NFL has remained consistent and awesome. The other thing the NFL has done is that they have completely and totally monopolized our sports calendars. Monopolized them, man. Complete and total monopolization. Think about this. September through December is the NFL season. January is the NFL playoffs. February is the Super Bowl. March is the NFL Combine. April is the NFL Draft. Tonight, they're doing their big schedule release party, which we'll be talking about for the next couple of weeks. And then on July, they have training camps. In August, they have preseason. The only month that the NFL concedes is June. At last check, as far as I know, you might be able to tell me something that I'm missing. I don't believe there's anything in the NFL going on in June. But 11 out of the 12 months, they monopolize. So Diesel, NFL, I'm saying stock way up. And I know I'm saying that to somebody in you that they still need to sell.
Yeah, they got a lot of work to get me. I honestly, I don't know what it would take for the NFL to grab me. It never has. And in all likelihood, it never will. Maybe it's going to take one of my team's guys going out there and being a superstar on the NFL level. I don't know. I mean, I don't know what the NFL can do to get me back. I don't know. Maybe it's not minimized when a player beats the living tar out of his wife on camera and you minimize it to like, no big deal. Maybe when players do awful things, you don't minimize it to like, it's no big deal. And then 2 weeks later, you pendulum swing back the other way and go super hard on somebody for a minor infraction. It's like they're treating guys in the league who smoke a little dope to treat the pain that they go through every single day like they're murderers, and they treat the murderers like they just got a little drunk last night. Can't do that, guys. Now don't do it again. If you do it again, Dad, don't do it a third time. Really don't do it a third time. See, the NFL is just this back and forth pendulum swing. It's like Miley Cyrus on that damn wrecking ball, just back to it so far this way and it's so far that way, and none of it makes any sense. And I'm out. I'm out on the NFL.
But I'm asking you, is the stock up nationwide?
Well, sure it is.
Yeah,
sure it is. But the way you framed the question, you said, "Are they ever going to get you?" And the answer is no. They're not going to get me.
Right. But
because I just don't care.
Right. Well, Diesel, you went to a Carolina Panthers game last year.
Sucked. Experience was awful.
Guess who has been here 4 years and still hasn't been to a Carolina Panthers game? Me. I still haven't been.
I don't fancy dropping $100 a ticket and $40 for parking and $60 on beers and $20 on a hat. I don't fancy doing that. That's not my bag. Some people it is. You do you, I guess. Spend your money in good health.
Next up, NBA. I say stock down. And I think these playoffs have been great. And Golden State and the Lakers have been great. But when you consider the problems that plague the NBA right now, right? When you consider those issues throughout the NBA, I think you would say, most people would say, the NBA is stocked down right now. Number one, load management is a load of bull. Play a number of games that your stars can commit to. Number two, there's an elitist air to it. Number three, players care more about their opponents. They dap their opponents up. They hug their opponents than they do about you, the fan. Number four, politics are on the front burner, not the back burner. Number five, salaries are out of control. When you have players making $60 million a year, a single player in a league not 1/10 as popular as the NFL, you've lost me. And number six, there's no defense. There's no defense for the fact that there's no defense. Like, it's too hard to play defense without fouling these days. They've eliminated all the rules that allow you to play defense, and then they call ticky-tack fouls all game long. And when you got to score 130 points to win a playoff game, you've lost me. Diesel, I'd say the NBA is stock down. Stock up, stock down, or neutral?
I think the NBA stock is neutral. There is a very large, very dedicated fan base for the NBA, but not around here. Not around here. Look, they have prioritized star athletes over teams. It's not a team game anymore. Yes, there's a lot of ticky-tack fouls, but I mean, just last night in the play-by-play, I tuned in for a couple of minutes of the Lakers-Warriors game. I heard the play-by-play announcer say, quote, "These players know they have to embellish fouls to get calls." And literally the entire basketball watching world is saying, if you have to embellish it, it's not a foul. It's not watchable. It's bad. It's bad basketball. The NBA is bad basketball at the highest level. And you got to eliminate these. You got to eliminate these flopping calls. They even talked about it in the broadcast. In other levels of basketball around the world, they call technical fouls for flopping, and it has eliminated flopping. You got to get rid of that stuff. But look, it's not my cup of tea. It's not my sport. I still watch occasionally. I don't watch the Hornets because they suck. Always have, probably will for a very long time. But when it gets to the playoffs, I'll watch a little bit. So stock neutral to me.
We've got 10 of these for the different sports. Stock up, stock down, or neutral. Diesel, NHL.
Up.
I'm saying down. And I'm saying down because the league is blacked out to many. You've got to, like, they make you hunt and peck to find the streaming options. And then they throw all the games on at the exact same time.
Every team has got their own streaming network. So if you want to watch Hurricanes, you got to download and pay for the Bally Sports app. If you want to watch this team, you got to download that app. If you want to watch that team, you got to download that app. I get it. And that is one of my main frustrations with a lot of these sports that we're going to talk about is they've hidden a large portion of their games, especially the games that are local to the individual viewer. They're hiding these things behind paywalls, making it very difficult to find.
And when you say to your fan base the same thing that the Reds president did, the Cincinnati Reds president did, where else are you going to go? A year ago, the answer is from fans is anywhere else. The numbers are down. Folks, you know, like we, at the behest of Spur Daddy, one of our P1 listeners, who gave me an idea, hey, Mark, throw a bunch of topics you don't normally talk about into a 10 or 15-minute segment. I realized today that because our show always attempts to be what you guys want and what you guys like, because our show always attempts to do that, I realized I have not had one person say to me, not one, hey, Mark, how about some Carolina Hurricanes coverage? Not a single one. You know, we've had the option. I get emails from a network that carries NHL playoff games. I've asked my boss about it 2 or 3 times, and he goes, yeah, Mark, like I've seen the numbers. There just doesn't seem to be the appetite for it in this area. The sad part about that is Diesel and I and you have agreed that if this area ever were to get a pro team, it would be hockey. And frankly, my dear, you just don't give a damn. So I think NHL is stock down. Major League Soccer, Diesel, I say stock up, because what you are getting is an expansion of the league across America. What you are getting is a whole host of what's called soccer-specific stadiums being built, right? So, you're not playing in these cavernous NFL stadiums.
New York FC just announced theirs, and it's gorgeous. It's directly across the street from Citi Field in Brooklyn.
And I say that MLS is stock up as, everyone says in this country, well, a lot of people say, I'm a soccer guy, but I don't do MLS. So that we've got plenty of soccer fans here. The number for the international games, the numbers are outstanding. I will say this, though, Diesel. I feel like the interest in Charlotte FC on a local level from year 1 to year 2 fell off a cliff. Do you sense that as well? Last year, I felt this huge buzz for them. Man, we got an MLS soccer team right up the road, and not just in this area, but in Charlotte, both here and in Charlotte. I'm like, what is going on there?
It's a terrible job of marketing by Charlotte FC. They're not here at all. They're not trying to attract the Greenville, Spartanburg, Anderson, upstate community. They're just not. They're operating much in the same way that the Carolina Hurricanes do when it comes to the state of South Carolina. They're barely paying any attention to it at all. They say, you come to us instead of we come to you.
Would you say generally MLS stock up, stock down, or neutral?
I don't know enough really about ML. I don't watch enough MLS to say. I tuned in for a couple of minutes to the Charlotte FC game over the weekend, which was nice because it's now all on Apple TV, which the only reason we have Apple TV is because of a soccer show, because of Ted Lasso. So I was actually able to watch a little bit of the game, and the stands were, lower bowl, 75% full. For a region that is kind of shown itself to be a little anti-soccer, I think that's pretty good. So I would say stock up, but just barely. I mean, they're starting from nowhere.
We still are going to have horse racing, tennis, college basketball, college football, and UFC to go. But last one for this segment, Major League Baseball. I'm going to say stock way up. I think Rob Manfred is the most underrated commissioner in sports. And for all the historians and baseball P1 guys that are, channeling their inner grumpy old man and being freaking curmudgeons and get off my lawn guy, these changes weren't for you. You were going to be there rain or shine for baseball. These changes were for the people like Diesel and I that baseball had lost, and it's bringing us back in, and it's better, and it's interesting, and it's entertaining. Stock way up for me for MLB, Diesel.
Oof. I'm exactly the opposite. I think stock down for Major League Baseball. I haven't seen a major shift. I haven't seen a ton of conversation when it comes to our P1s. Whenever we said it last week, if we talk about baseball, if we post podcasts about baseball, it's your responsibility to get in the comment section and talk about it. We did that. And one guy commented on a post about the Atlanta Braves being white hot and having a great shot of heading to the World Series. One guy got in the comment section. This is a Facebook page, Mark, where we're regularly hitting 20, 30,000 people per post. And one guy cared enough to comment on it. I think stock is way down for Major League Baseball.
Yeah, it's interesting. We know that Clemson is the number 1 team in the area. We know that South Carolina is the number 2 team in the area. When we do our top 10, and I'm like, are the Panthers number 3? High school sports, high school football, is that number 3? We get a few people every time that argue with us about the Braves. So the question is, do we just need to do a better job with our coverage? Or is the popularity here just not there? But the question here is, nationally, what is MLB doing? And I think across the country, the stock for Major League Baseball is up. I feel like it's up. I feel like it was kind of becoming like Old Man River and antiquated and archaic. And I feel like it's kind of gotten with the times now. So nationally, I think the stock is up. What say you guys about that? Trey Davis wants to know, do you think the same they could say the same thing about the Charlotte Hornets? They don't really reach out and try to build their fan base. I have never seen less of an outreach to a respectable market within earshot of an NBA franchise than Charlotte has here. Diesel, Michael Jordan is still the owner of that team. Like, what would it take for Jordan to show up himself at some community outreach efforts?
Why don't we have Charlotte Hornets doing playing preseason games and playing early season games at Bon Secours Wellness Arena? Why don't we have the Carolina Hurricanes doing the same thing? That's community outreach.
Right.
That is called we are coming to you instead of trying to force you to come to us.
You know, Michael Jordan feels as far away from this area as the Pope. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just there's zero connection here. How about the outreach, man? How about showing that you care? People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. No outreach from the Charlotte Hornets. Okay. We've got to finish this, but I want to bring you a fun interview that we are going to give you next with Kelly Ford, who's going to bring you inside the numbers of the upcoming college football season. That, my friends, is next. And this is the most interactive sports talk show anywhere. It's Offsides, Mark Ryan and Diesel, and we are the Fan Upstate. It's Offsides, Mark, Ryan, and Diesel. We are the Fan Upstate. Great to have you guys with us on a Friday Eve edition of the show. Joining us right now, it's been a minute since we've had a chance to talk to our guy, Kelly Ford, on Twitter at KFordRatings. You know, when you see all of the analytics models for college football, and then you see like, hey, you know, we form the composite, we average them. Kelly Ford's model is always used in those composites. He's got one of the best models in the country. And, you know, I'm not talking about the pretty kind of model either, but his kind is more intriguing, if I'm honest with you. Kelly Ford at KFordRatings joins us right now on the show. Kelly, always good to catch up with you, my man. What's good? How have you been?
Hey, Mark, I'm doing well. I appreciate you guys having me on. That was a great opening segment you guys did there with the stock up, down, or neutral. I just want to share, before we get into what I think I know about college football and that we're going to talk about, I want to let you guys know that I absolutely care about you, Diesel, and your listeners. I like that quote about they don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. That was good.
Oh, yeah, man. So interestingly, Kelly, can I get your quick take on the five that we did? NFL, NBA, NHL, MLS, MLB, and I'm going to check your memory because that's the only time I'm going to tell you what the five are.
Okay, let me try here. NFL, I'll say, is up. NBA, I think it depends if you're talking globally or domestically in the United States. My answer would change. I think globally it's up. I think domestically it might be down a little bit. NHL, I would say, is up. Maybe it's just the time of year, though, with it being playoff hockey. Everybody loves that. MLB, I think, is down, has been trending down for quite some time. That's 4. MLS is the other one. I am a big soccer fan personally. I think it's probably staying the same. I'm not sure we saw the boost from this World Cup that we've seen from previous World Cups, men's World Cups. So that was disappointing to me as a soccer fan, but hopefully when we host the World Cup in 2026, we'll get a big bump at that time.
You don't think MLB is stock up given the rule changes? Like, given what it's doing for the game, making the game shorter, streaming numbers were up 42% the opening week of the year. Everyone wants to see what are these changes. You don't get the sense that the vibe is better for MLB?
That's fair. Yeah, I will give you relative to the last 5 years. Yes, I would agree with you. MLB stock is up. If we're looking at the holistic trajectory of the sport as a whole, I'm not sure that even these rule changes, which I think are great, and I'm a big fan of, I'm glad they did it. I think it's better for the game. I'm not sure that's enough to save baseball, if you will. I think it'll always be there for a certain segment of the country, but I don't see it bringing baseball back to the top of the sports pyramid in the United States, personally. But again, I'm not a big baseball guy, so take that for what it's worth too.
Kelly Ford joining us at KFordRatings. You had a tweet today or yesterday, Kelly, that intrigued me. And you said your numbers indicate that Clemson isn't quite what they once were, or what they're not quite what they've been. Can you elaborate on that for me?
Yeah, for sure. So someone had asked for my Clemson preseason realistic expectation graphic. And so I posted that with just a little commentary. If we're looking at the last 10 years of my KFordRatings, predictive power ratings at year-end ranked, in 2014, Clemson was number 21. After that, nationally. After that, though, from 2015 to 2020, Clemson's year-end K-Ford rating, which is the power rating, their rank nationally was 4, 2, 5, 1, 3, 2. Never finishing lower than 5th from 2015 to 2020. If you look at 21, 22, and now the early projections for preseason 23, those national ranks are 9, 10, and 9. So still really, really good. Like that's, I mean, there's 90% of FBS, 95% of FBS would love to be Clemson football. But the standard that Dabo and that program set from 2015 to 2020, it's not quite there these last 2 years and now projecting into 2023. So I do think maybe there's been a half step back relative to the national title contenders, if you will. It's still a top 10 program, still projected to be a top 10 team this year. But for a while there, it was, top 5, top 2, top 3. So I do think there's been a half step back. I'm curious to see if the 2023 team can get back into that top 5 mix by the end of the year.
Kelly, how do you see yourself adjusting your ratings if and when the Big Ten does what they are rumored to do now, removing that requirement of paying Power 5 outside of your conference. Do you see yourself adjusting it for their relative strength of schedule change? Obviously, they're bringing on bigger brands like USC and UCLA into the mix, but they're now not required to play stronger out of conference. Do you see yourselves making changes?
Yeah, these are good questions. So from a power rating standpoint and from a resume ranking and evaluating standpoint, the short answer is no. My model is going to look at who'd you play, where'd you play them, and then how did you play in that game? And for resume ranking, did you win, did you lose, and what was the scoring margin relative to expected there? So it doesn't necessarily matter who's on the schedule. I'm already accounting for, given the opponent's relative strength in the power rating, how much value that either adds with a win or detracts with a loss. So no, I don't think the Big Ten scheduling parameters or regulation changing will change anything with my power rating. It will impact the rankings, of course, but that's going to happen regardless of who's on the schedule.
Kelly Ford at K Ford Ratings joining us here on the show. Kelly, it's interesting. What did you make of the odds to win the ACC coming out and Clemson not being tops on that list? What do you make of that?
Yeah, that's interesting to me, Mark, because if I'm looking at my projections here for this year, I know Florida State's getting a lot of fanfare, and they should. This is probably going to be the best Florida State team that we've seen since maybe 2016 or even earlier in the Jimbo Fisher era. But to me, looking at my numbers right now, again, I still have Clemson as the quote best team in my power ratings. I'm projecting them with the most conference wins. We know now with the divisions going away, that's just going to be the top two teams, and they'll square off for the ACC championship. So I do right now project Clemson and Florida State to be the two teams that are there. But if you're asking me, who do you think it's going to be? My numbers at this point would suggest Clemson over anybody in the ACC. That's not to say someone can't surprise us, but I definitely would think that Clemson should be the favorite at this juncture, given what we know.
Kelly Ford joining us here on the show, and I thought Clemson fans would find this interesting. Your projections say in a 12-game season, Clemson's record is going to be 9.8 wins and 2.2 losses. Kelly, that's not going to get them to the college football playoff. You said in a 12-game season, your model says that there is a 60% chance that Clemson will win 10 games or more. On a 30% chance they'll win 11 games or more, but just a 7% chance they'll win all 12 games of the season. That number is going to have to be 11-1 to have a chance at making the playoff. You've got them at just a 30% chance of doing so. Yet, just like ESPN's FPI, you have Clemson as a favorite in every single game. And I believe this thing is called binomial probability, Kelly, where when you take cumulative percentage, you're going to get a couple losses, even if each and every odd is over 50%. Notre Dame, Florida State at home for the Clemson Tigers, which is a more likely L?
Yep, everything you said there, Mark, is spot on. I agree with you 100%. Right now, by my numbers, which again are still preliminary, subject to change, they'll be finalized as we get closer to the start of the season, and I finalize the returning production numbers and players come out of the portal and land in their final destinations. Right now, those are the two toughest games on Clemson's regular season schedule. I would give the slightly more difficult task to Clemson when they host Notre Dame in Week 10. I currently have a 60% win probability for the Tigers in that game, whereas in Week 4 against Florida State, I have that as a 63% win probability. So those are the only two games, though, that have less than a 73% chance, it looks like right now, for Clemson to win. And Mark, as you said, 9.8 and 2.2, so almost 10 wins on average, what we're looking at here for Clemson. They still, though, by my numbers, despite that, have the sixth best odds to make the college football playoff at 23%, behind only Georgia, Ohio State, Alabama, Michigan, and USC. So Clemson, again, that goes back to your first question about them being favorites in the ACC. They have the best chance to make the CFP out of the ACC by my numbers, and I think that they are definitely the favorite in the ACC for me right now.
Now, Kelly, I believe, flipping the script to South Carolina, the Gamecocks are one of the most underrated teams in America. I thought ESPN's projection was ridiculously low. I respect yours because you bumped them a little bit higher than ESPN's. Your model, or perhaps you, view them a bit better than ESPN's model does. but not by a whole lot. Their overall projection is 5.5 wins, 6.5 losses. You say 5.7 wins, 6.3 losses. ESPN says there's a 20% chance the Gamecocks beat Clemson. You say a 25% chance they beat Clemson. ESPN's model says there's a 48% chance the Gamecocks reach bowl eligibility. Think about that for a minute, given that program's expectations. Your model says 55% chance they reach bowl eligibility. But why, generally speaking, are the returns so low? Both your model and ESPN's have the Gamecocks as the second worst team in the SEC.
The reason for it, Mark, is yes, I might have them as the second worst team in the SEC. I still have them power rated right now, number 39 in the country. So this is still a really, really good South Carolina team. The problem, if you will, for my model and in my eyes, is this schedule. This schedule is ridiculously tough. Now, I know it's not new to Gamecock fans. You guys get this almost every single year. You got to play Georgia in the division. You always play Clemson in the non-conference. I think Florida's a really good team this year, too. You obviously have North Carolina, who's been an improved program in recent years. By my numbers, this is the second most difficult schedule against which to reach bowl eligibility in the entire country from the perspective of the average top 25 team. It's the fourth hardest schedule in the entire country to go undefeated against from the perspective of the average top 25 team. I'm looking at the schedule here. Here are the predictive power rate ranks of South Carolina's opponents this year. 2, 9, 24, 10, 26, 18, 20, 23, 36. I mean, almost everybody on the schedule except for Furman, Jacksonville State, and Vanderbilt is a top 40 program or top 40 team that you're playing. It's a ridiculously tough schedule. Now, South Carolina did overachieve my expectations last year, winning 8 regular season games. I had projected 6.1. So it's there. It can be done. Beamer proved me wrong last year, and I'm sure South Carolina fans are going to be hoping he can prove me wrong again this year. The schedule is just so difficult. But as you said, 55% chance for Clemson to reach South Carolina to reach bowl eligibility. And I'm sure hoping they can do it because Beamer seems to have found some magic down there, and college football is better when South Carolina is good.
Now, you said that, they're playing a very good Florida team, and that's what I would dispute with you, Kelly, here, because I did the other day, you said to me, the Gamecocks have the second hardest schedule to reach bowl eligibility, and I said, who's number one? And you're like, your team, Mark. Great. The Florida Gators. ESPN's model said, this is a game that Gamecock fans care a lot about, Florida, South Carolina. ESPN's model said 40% chance Gamecocks win. Your model is virtually identical, 41% chance the Gamecocks win. I don't get the why there, honestly. I honestly believe, Kelly, that Florida is very likely to bottom out this year. I don't necessarily believe that means Billy Napier's the wrong coach. I believe that's where they are as a roster heading into a gauntlet. Now, that particular South Carolina game, the Gamecocks are coming off a bye. Does your model factor that in? The quarterback comparison is going to be Spencer Rattler versus Graham Mertz, who might as well be Graham Miss at that point of the schedule in terms of what he's able to do through the air. And Florida had one of the highest numbers of transfers all year long. So, I view South Carolina just as being a better team than Florida this year. There is no Rattler to Juice Wells combination on Florida's roster that's available. I don't get the number, if I'm honest with you, especially home game for the Gamecocks coming off of a bye. I just don't see it, Kelly.
Yep. I will say, Mark, to that point, coming off the bye, those scheduling quirks, the scheduling nuances, those are not explicitly seen by the model. Those are things that are left to the viewer, the fan to interpret and make manual adjustments as you will. So that's a very good point. And I do think scheduling nuances and sequences absolutely play a big role in college football. I will agree with that. What it does see are all of those other things that you just mentioned with regard to the players that are on the field, the returning production. And I'm very confident in that aspect of the model. There are outliers, of course. It is possible that Florida could be an outlier and a team that the model is just missing on this year. I will also note from a South Carolina perspective, I mentioned I really like what Shane Beamer has done. It seems to be finding some magic, building momentum. There are things that the model can't capture. There are these intangible things. There's the vibe around the program. There's things that the model can't see and account for. South Carolina seems to have a lot of that positivity that the model is blind to, whereas Florida, maybe on the other hand, does not quite have that right now. And there are some things going on. This might be a bottom out from a record-wise. While I agree with you that I think Napier is the guy and can get it going at Florida, from a record standpoint, this could be that year because of the schedule difficulty. So I think there are some reasons that might explain some of that. My numbers right now make Florida a 3-point favorite over South Carolina. That's pretty close to a toss-up game. I wouldn't get mad at anybody who says, I think South Carolina's a better team. I think they're going to win that game. They're at home. And if that game's at night, they got a really good chance, I think, much better than what my numbers are giving. Because, again, the time of day is something that the model doesn't necessarily see. So I think that's fair.
Finally, Kelly, a little playoff preview. I know you touched on some of the numbers here, but there's only 2 teams that have a 50% chance or better of making the CFP. Georgia at 63%. Their schedule is sponsored by the Pillsbury Doughboy of softest, man. It's just pathetic. Ohio State's 54%. You got Alabama next, but just at 39%, followed by Michigan. In the variability of your model, what are some of the what are some of the foursomes that you've seen your model spit out?
Yeah, so we have a lot of the similar contenders here. A lot of likely names: Georgia, Ohio State, Alabama, Michigan, Clemson, Oklahoma, Texas. Those names are up at the top of the list. But I think some of the reasons that the percentages are lower this year than maybe they have been in the past is some of the uncertainty around premium positions, especially for some of these programs at the top. I mean, you talk about quarterback specifically. Of course, Michigan's is coming back. USC is coming back. Clemson, I'm really excited to see what Cade Klubnik can do there. But in terms of feeling really good about certain teams to make the playoff, I think there's just more uncertainty this year around college football. Of course, the transfer portal is playing a factor in that too. We saw what USC did last year with largely a transfer roster. We see what Colorado's trying to do this year with that. We'll see if they have success in that regard. But just the player movement, as well as the most important position in all of sports, quarterback, being, I won't call it unsettled, but unproven at the college level at some of these top tier programs, top tier teams, is going to make for what I think is going to be a really interesting race to the college football playoff all throughout this year.
Kelly Ford at K Ford Ratings is where you can get to him on Twitter. Really, really, really good stuff. Kelly, I'm realizing I haven't spent a lot of time on your website. Does your website have a way for me to look at every single team's capsule, though, like you've sent me, or where is your website in regards to that? I'm realizing I'm clicking on that for the first time. You post so much content, and this, I don't know, Kelly, I don't know if this is a tip from me to you or what. I think you obviously know what you're doing, but you post so much content on social media. I'm realizing I didn't have to click on the model. I just, when I need something, I ask Kelly Ford, hey, Kelly, can you send me your Clemson grid?
Yeah, Mark, you're not the first to ask about this. The model definitely doesn't look as pretty and colorful as the social media page. I am certainly working on that. I am by no means a computer programmer or any of that, so I struggle a little bit on the back end putting stuff onto the website, but I'm going to try to get better at that. I'm going to try to put those things on there during the regular seasons where the website's probably a little bit more useful because it has the full 1 through 133 power ratings, the full 1 through 133 resume rankings, and things like that. So I'll get better about putting it on there, but I appreciate you checking that out, and I need to get some more content on there to make that website look a little bit more fresh.
Well, I'll tell you, the content machine is there on social media, and it's outstanding stuff. And I'm going there, and I was like, I'd like to see what everybody is ranked, and I'm seeing what everybody is ranked from last year. So that's really, really good stuff. At K Ford Ratings is where you can get to them. Kelly, so good to catch up with you, man. I truly appreciate the time.
Absolutely, Mark. You're the best. Thanks, Diesel. Appreciate you guys. You guys have a good one.
All right, take care. Kelly Ford at K Ford Ratings joining us here on the show and Offsides. We'll be back right after this.
This is Offsides with Mark Ryan.
It's Offsides. Mark Ryan and Diesel. We are the Fan Upstate. All right, Diesel, let's run through the rest of these. Horse racing, stock up, stock down, or neutral. Like, we got about a minute per
Down.
one. Has the Kentucky Derby ever been less relevant?
Nobody cares.
Ever been less
It's
of a
only the
big
people
deal?
who always cared. They're not gaining any new fans.
And it's really established itself as an inhumane practice. 7 horses died at Churchill Downs this year. 7. Tennis, Diesel. I say stock down.
Down.
No male American stars and no Serena Williams. I mean, how else could you say anything but down? College basketball, Diesel. I'm going to say stock up, and I'll tell you why. I think the NIL and transfer portal has led to unpredictability at the college level, which leads to interest, which leads to no 1, 2, or 3 seed in the Final Four for the first time ever. There's a sense that everybody has a chance now.
Well, it's fantastic that teams have an opportunity to drastically improve their stock from year over year. And I think that's going to add a lot of excitement to the game for fans of teams that were like okay to mid-level to rise up.
College football, Diesel, I'm going to say stock down, and it's my favorite sport. College football, to me, feels like a money grab. There's no parity. You got bidding wars for players. You got coaches throwing barbs at one another and having blow-ups. Jimbo and Nick Saban, I'm looking at you. There is a lack of relatability to the fans in a way that hasn't existed before. I think college football right now, until it rights itself, is stock down.
It's crazy. The thing that is helping college basketball feels like it's hurting college football. Yeah, stock down. We'll just have to see what happens with this expanded playoff. If it does do what they say that it will do, which is keep more fan bases invested deeper into the season. But a lot of people are just they're over this money grab. They're over these guys constantly moving. So I don't know if that's going to help. I don't know if that can save the sport.
UFC, stock way down for me. If you aren't a UFC guy, how many fighters can you name? You're listening right now without looking at your phone. Go.
Active fighters.
Go,
You can't say Chuck Liddell.
Yeah, John Bones Jones, Diesel. Who else you got?
Nobody.
Name one.
Yeah. Since Ronda Rousey was out of the sport, I don't know any of the female fighters anymore either.
Seriously, guys, without looking them up, name 3 UFC fighters. Go. If you're not a UFC guy, and I'm not anymore because they make me do pay-per-view. You got to put it on network television. You got to allow us to get to know the fighters, and then we'll buy pay-per-view. You got to take one step back, put this on network TV, and then take 2 steps forward with pay-per-view later. Again, you make your product hard to watch, and the answer to the question, where else are you going to go, is anywhere else. It has been years since I watched a live USC fight. I'm realizing I've lived here for 4 years. I have not seen a live UFC fight since I've been here. I have not been to a Carolina Panthers game since I've been here. It's all about the caliber of the product that you have and making your product available. A special guest joins us next, right here on Offsides. We are the Fan Upstate. What's good, everybody? This is the most interactive sports talk show anywhere. It's Offsides, Mark, Ron, and Diesel, and we are the Fan Upstate, rolling on until 7 p.m. today. Can I get an amen? Well, yesterday, Diesel and I were captivated by the story of Andy Wynn and the local girl coming home for bare knuckle fighting. Today, we bring on the main event. This is exciting. This is incredible. Tony Loco Soto fighting tomorrow night at Bon Secours Wellness Arena. You guys can get your tickets at bkfc.com. This is going to be incredible. A bare knuckle fighting record of 4-0. A native out of Brooklyn, New York. Tony Loco Soto joins us right now on the show. Welcome to South Carolina, Tony. How is the upstate treating you so far?
Oh, man, it's real beautiful over here. I love the energy. The people are great. Food is good, and just looking to go ahead and put on a show for South Carolina, man.
There you go. So you got the nickname Loco, Tony, which is having us very intimidated over here. Okay, after all, we've got to talk to you on the radio. Can you bring us into that nickname, my friend? How did you get that?
Let's just say, for instance, after I made weight today, I had a 5-pound bag of gummy bears I started eating and giving out to everybody. If that ain't crazy, I don't know what is.
So, Tony, what drew you specifically to bare knuckle boxing as opposed to other combat sports? There's lots of options that you could go into, and lots of different directions that you could go into. So what pulled you specifically there?
You know, I originally started amateur boxing, went into kickboxing, went into MMA, then went into pro boxing. And then when I heard about bare knuckle, it was just like, you know, these guys are getting paid to fight bare knuckle. You know, growing up, we did this for free. Shit, I'm already good at it. Might as well sign me up now.
That's absolutely right. Tony Loco Soto joining us here on Offsides. Mark, Ryan, and Diesel. We are the Fan Upstate. Last time out, you knocked out Wayna Reed this year, January 27th in Myrtle Beach. What is the feeling like, Tony, to knock out a boxer or a fighter in real time? What is that like?
Honestly, it's, you know, of course you want the safety of your opponent, of course. You know, this is a hurt sport, and at the end of the day, you know, we're all risking our lives, and, you know, you want them to be in the best, you know, condition after. But in that moment itself, it is, if you're not there and if you've never been there, it's just one of the hardest things to just express. It's like an outer body experience. It's just like, you know, like, did this just happen? Did I just do that? You know?
So, Tony, when we had Andy Wynn on the show yesterday, who is also on this weekend's card, she gave us her opinion on the differences between men's and women's bare knuckle fighting, and I want to get your opinion on the same question. She described women's fighting as very analytical, very strategic, whereas the men's fighting side is much more aggression based. Would you say that's accurate, and how would you describe the difference, positively, the difference between men's and women's fighting?
Well, personally, I think it's the opposite. If you watch all the women's fights, they just come in, and if you know there's a women fighting on the card, you know they're bringing it, and that's just what a lot of fans look forward to, especially when you have some of the big names on the cards, like, you know, like Wynn, and you have, you know, Taylor Starling, and you have Christine Ferrer. You know, those guys, they come in and they go off forward, they throw tons of punches, you know, and it depends. You know, some of the male fighters are so strategic. You know, you got to look at, you know, myself, of course. You got to look at, like, guys like Tom Schultz and guys like even, what's his name? Shoot, can't think off the top of my head. But, yeah, for instance, just, you know, it just depends on the opponent. But I would say primarily it would be, I would say females a little more aggressive, because I feel like they have more to prove because there's more guys on the card. So they want to show that they belong just as much.
Tony Loco Soto on the main event for tomorrow night's card at Bon Secours Wellness Arena, Bare Knuckle Fighting Championships. You know, Tony, I think back to the origins of UFC, and, you know, you could rent them on VHS, and it would be Hoist Gracie. And my dad and I used to rent these cassettes, and we'd watch them on weekends where mom was out of town because mom wouldn't like us watching that. Like, I never thought it was going to be anything but a cartoon show. And look at where it went. Look at what happened to the UFC. Like, they legitimized it. They made it something that people wanted to watch, that fighters wanted to be a part of. Could I ask you, like, what is the ceiling here for bare knuckle fighting? I understand it's been around. You guys are building something. I do get the sense that there's very much a buzz here surrounding this event. It just became legal in South Carolina. So how far can you guys take this thing?
The proof is in the pudding, man. This is the fastest growing sport in the world, and it's just an honor to be part of it. And just at the rate and the elevation that this sport is going, I feel like sky is like the limit. Like it can just keep going. Like this is the new wave. This is the new UFC. This is where everyone wants to be.
Tony Loco Soto joining us on the show today. Tony, you're from Brooklyn. I spent a little time there about a decade ago. I lived in a little neighborhood in Brooklyn called Carroll Gardens. Don't know if you know it. It's Smith.
Get out of here, man. I'm from Park Slope.
No way. Smith and Hoyt Street, man. That's where I lived. What makes New York fighters different from everybody else from different regions of the country? And do you kind of train to get rid of some of those tendencies, or do you want to train to really accentuate those tendencies?
Not taking away from any other towns and places, but growing up in Brooklyn and New York City, you already know it's a dog-eat-dog world. And, it's a constant, when I grew up, it was a constant battle of always having to prove that you can defend yourself, that, you weren't going to get bullied. You weren't going to be the guy giving your school lunch to somebody or giving your school money or, just getting picked on in general, And, whether I got beat up or not, I still fought. And I always made sure that they remembered me. But I've been a resident of North Carolina for the last 8.5 years. And, it's truly a blessing to be out here in the South. The energy's been great. I love the martial art community. It's phenomenal, man. It's just been a great, great experience.
Tony Loco Soto on the main event for tomorrow night's Bare Knuckle Fighting Championships against Tyler Goodjohn. Now, what can you tell us about your opponent, Tony? I know you know what's going to happen to your opponent, but what can you tell us about Tyler Goodjohn before it does?
He's a tough guy. He's been in some good wars. But honestly, like seeing him today in person, seeing the way he moves, I don't see nothing that I'm not going to see, that I haven't seen, that I have not downloaded already. A couple of my last fights were last-second opponents, and I really didn't have any information on them or data. This guy, I've downloaded everything that I need, and I feel like there's nothing he's going to bring to me that I don't already know that's coming.
Tony, what is the most important yet least glamorous part of your training regimen?
The most glamorous?
The most important, but the least glamorous. Like it pays the biggest dividends doing this one thing.
My diet, man. I'm, and you can ask the people in my circle. I am the most strictest person when it comes to my diet. There's no cheat meals. There's no cheat snack. There's no cheat this. There's no, let me get a bite. None of that. I am strategically. I'm on point. I eat what I'm supposed to eat when I'm supposed to eat. And, it pays. It pays. And, you got to pay to play, baby.
Except gummy bears, of course, right?
Well, gummy bears, believe it or not, have tons of glycogen. So after weighing in, you want all that sugar back, man.
Well, there you go. So Tony Loco Soto, can you bring us into that diet per se? What is it at bare knuckle fighting? What is the weight limit for the lightweight division? How much do you have to weigh?
It's 155 with a pound allowance, so 156. If it's for a championship, it's 155 on the dot, nothing over.
155 on the dot. And how tall are you, Tony?
5'9".
5'9", 150. Like, I haven't been that weight since freshman year of college, Tony. So can you just bring us in, like, with the training that you do to maintain 155, are you able to eat 3,000 calories a day with the training that you do?
Oh, man. I had a 7-week camp on this one. I walk around at 185. So I've dieted very strategically. I eat every 3 hours. I do intermittent eating, and not fasting, eating. I eat every 3 hours, small portions, and a snack between that. And it creates an active metabolism, which allows me to burn fat and burn calories.
So it totally baffles me, Tony. Like, how, if you've lost 30 pounds in the last 2 months, how on earth do you guys have any energy left by the time you get into the round? Like, whenever I lose a lot of weight in a short period of time, I don't feel well. How do you do that?
It's all about what you're intaking. You got to learn your body. It takes a lot of time. I've been doing this over 10 years. And, I know what my body needs after rehydration. I know what my body needs during training. People like to eat because they're hungry. If you're eating for fuel, then you're going to perform better. You eat to perform. You don't eat to fool yourself. You eat to perform. It's like putting gas in like a Ferrari. You're not going to put regular gas in a Ferrari. You're going to put premium gas in a Ferrari. So,
Tony, Andy on the show yesterday talked about the physical exhaustion that she feels from the mental effort that she puts in a fight. Of course, on top of, 5 rounds of fighting. But at what point do you like to lock in before a fight? Is it 30 minutes before bell? Is it an hour before bell? Or is it that moment that the door closes on the cage that you're locked in?
Well, as soon as my song comes on and I'm standing on that stage, I zone in. I let everything go. I get in the zone. I mean, I'm just ready to eat. It's me and him, and somebody's got to win, and I'm gonna win. That's my mentality.
Tony Loco Soto on the main event for tomorrow night, Bon Secours Wellness Arena against Tyler Goodjohn. Tony, I know that you can improve your strength. You can improve your stamina. You can improve your power. One thing that seems to me like people either have or they don't, correct me if I'm wrong, is the chin. Like, how the kind of shots that you can take without going down. How does one go about developing their chin? I get the sense, Tony, that if you breathed on Diesel or I, we would go down. But how do you improve your chin? How do you work on that?
Well, either you got it or you don't. Some people do have it and some people don't. And I feel like, it takes a lot of time to train your jaw muscles, and that goes with training, sparring, chewing gum, doing stretches to stretch out your jaw, neck stretches. Those are ways to strengthen up your neck and your jaw. But the chin, it basically comes down to you got it or you don't.
That's fascinating, man. Fascinating. What are some of the keys, Tony, tomorrow for you against Tyler Goodjohn? Like if you follow X, Y, and Z, you got a great chance to be victorious.
I'm just going to be relentless. I'm going to be who I am and who I say I am and who I've been. I'm going to be Loco. I'm going to get in there, get crazy, shake and bake, leave no crumbs. I'm going to beat up that bum and send him home.
Tony Loco Soto, 4-0, native of Brooklyn, New York. Bare Knuckle Fighting Championships is fighting right here in the upstate Bon Secours Wellness Arena tomorrow night. Get your tickets, bkfc.com. This is going to be a must-see event. Tony, we'd wish you good luck. I don't think you're going to need it, but we thank you so much for joining us today, my friend.
I appreciate you guys having me, man. You guys stay well and get ready for the knockout, baby.
We can't wait. Tony Loco Soto, 4-0, native of Brooklyn, New York, fighting in the lightweight division, 155 pounds. And again, Diesel, just like I shared with you yesterday, like my boys in college who believe there's no way a girl could beat them at anything. And I'm like, Andy Wynn would put these cats in a body bag.
Yeah.
There are people listening right now saying no one that weighs 155 could beat me. I'm at 255. The fight would last less than a minute.
2 punches, you're down.
Gone.
It's insane when you read the stats on athletes across all sports, but especially when you get into combat sports, boxing, MMA, you start to see you'll see somebody that looks just completely yoked and they're 30 pounds lighter than you. And you're like, how is this possible? How are you this muscular and light at the same time?
Trust me, when they punch you, it hurts. Okay, it hurts. And you being 100 pounds more, all that means is you have low stamina. You can't handle their punches. I bet there's somebody listening in our audience right now that listened to that interview and thought to themselves, 155, I could take that guy. Is that you? Declare yourself. Unmask yourself. Did you hear that and think you would win a fight against a 155-pound man? I want to see if you think you could do it. 71307 on the text line.
Yeah, these are fighters. These are not jockeys, okay?
Coming up next on the show, what would it take for Shane Beamer to go down as the all-time Gamecock GOAT head coach? We'll tackle that next. This is the most interactive sports talk show anywhere. It's Offsides, Mark, Ryan, and Diesel, and we are the Fan Upstate. It's Offsides, Mark, Ryan, and Diesel. We are the Fan Upstate. Fantastic to have you guys with us. Getting to your texts. And then, what would it take for Shane Beamer to become the GOAT head coach in South Carolina Gamecock football history? The Gamecocks got a new recruiting commitment in the last hour. I've been checking to see who it is. I don't have a name yet, but we do have the welcome home alert from one Shane Beamer. Texter says Greenville's own Eastside Lady Eagles soccer team is playing for the state championship tomorrow at Irmo at 12 noon. Good luck to the Eastside Lady Eagles. Go get them. Texter says, speaking of marketing, the Braves were the masters of marketing in the 90s. You're right, Texter. I mean, like, they commanded an entire region of the country. And fans created such a loyalty to that team that even the birth of other teams in the area haven't broken that loyalty. No Braves fan has gone to the Rays. No Braves fan has gone to the Marlins, right? If they add a new team in Nashville, Tennessee, no Braves fans going there or to Charlotte or to anywhere else. Texter says that was because of Ted Turner, one of the entrepreneurial geniuses of our time, right? Ted Turner. Texter says more Braves coverage would be awesome because if you don't have Bally Sports Network, you basically can't see them. They're always blacked out. It's so frustrating, man. Yeah, Texter, so here's what burns my brownies, all right? I had AT&T Uverse. That had Bally Sports. I switched because when we moved in together, when I moved in with the wifey and Jackson, we had free internet. So there was no reason to keep paying for the cable and internet package, which was $150 a month. No reason to do that whatsoever. And so we switched. We said, what better time to cut the cord than now? Let's get YouTube TV. And come to find out that Bally Sports is not on YouTube TV. So I have found via MLB.com the condensed games. It's the whole game in like 10 or 15 minutes. And I'll watch those condensed games like before a show.
That sounds even better.
Yeah, like it condenses it, Diesel. It really just shows you like the key moments of the game. But I'll tell you, man, like it sucks. Like unless I want to pay for Bally Sports, I don't get the Braves game in and game out live and in real time. It sucks. Texter says, Mark, Tony Loco Soto sounded like the boom out of here guy.
Out of here.
Yeah. Sounded just like that guy.
Had that one ready.
Okay, so let's get going with the text line today.
This drives me crazy.
71307. I'm text line. I miss Crazy Ralph. It cracks me up every single time, man.
Get a grip, would you?
Crazy Ralph, we love you, brother. We love you. Okay, so I was looking at this, and let me start by saying this is not a segment designed to poke at South Carolina fans. Diesel, the record does this for them. Going through the history of South Carolina head coaches is an exercise in humiliation and depression. This is unbelievable. Now, let's set the standard for college football, okay? Because there are very clear numbers here of different tiers and different tier statuses. The elite coaches in college football have an 800 winning percentage. That's the mark of an elite head coach. The good coaches in college football have a 700 winning percentage. If you're at a down program, you can get by with a 600 winning percentage, but below that, a Power 5 program is likely not going to be willing to settle for you. I share all that with you to tell you this. In their history, in the last 80 years of Gamecock football, looking at every coach who has coached at least one full season, all right, the last 80 years, the Gamecocks have one coach in their history that has a 600 winning percentage or better. One. And you know the name, okay? Steve Spurrier. You know the name. In the history of Gamecock football, and I was looking at this today, and I couldn't believe what I was seeing. Steve Spurrier is the only guy in history at South Carolina that has a 600 winning percentage or better. Remember, elite head coaches are at 800. Good head coaches are at 700. Dan Mullen had a 693 winning percentage at Florida and was fired. At Florida, if you're below 700, you're not keeping your job there. Okay? Billy Napier might get 4 or 5 years to turn this thing around, but ultimately, if the winning percentage isn't north of 700, he is not going to be the guy at the University of Florida long term. Now, I understand that South Carolina doesn't have the history that a program like Florida does, or even that a program like Clemson does in the Dabo Swinney era. I get it. So I wanted to share with you kind of a power poll here. The last 80 years, these are all coaches who have coached at least a full season. There have been 13 coaches who fit the bill the last 13 years of Gamecocks athletics. And guys, we're seeing some comments coming in on YouTube. If you could also do me a solid and post them on our text line as well at 71307. Start your text with the word fan and away you go. So we can get to your text here too. Here we go. Richard Bell was the coach of the Gamecocks in 1982, had a winning percentage of 364. He's number 13. Number 12, Marvin Bass was the head coach of the Gamecocks from 1961 to 1965. Kiss my Bass, he told you when you fired him. His winning percentage was 408. Brad Scott, this is the first Gamecock coach that I remember, Diesel, and he was awful, and he was freaking terrible. 1994 to 1998, but he's number 11 on the list. He's not even last. Winning percentage of 418 in those 5 years, 418. Number 10 on the list, 1966 to 1964, the head coach was a gentleman by the name of Paul Dietzel. His winning percentage was Crapsel, 442. Number 10 on the list in Gamecock Power Rankings. This is the last 80 years of Gamecock head coaches, power ranking by winning percentage, all coaches that coached at least a full season at South Carolina. Number 9, Sparky Woods was the Gamecock coach from 1989 to 1993. Winning percentage was 462. If you were doing an actual power rankings, not by winning percentage, but what they accomplished, this next guy would be higher. But Lou Holtz, and the reason is Lou Holtz helped you survive, brought you back from the dead of the Brad Scott experience. Lou Holtz had the 0-11 season his first year. Lou Holtz was the head coach at South Carolina from 1999 to 2004, and the winning percentage was 471.
They really just brought him in to water the grass, Mark.
That's it. Number 7, Diesel, number 7 out of 13 head coaches the last 80 years. The reputation is far worse than that, isn't it? Number 7, what name have I not gotten to yet? Will Muschamp. Number 7 out of 13 coaches the last Imagine, Diesel, they had they had 6 coaches worse than Will Muschamp the last 80 years. Will Muschamp, winning percentage 483 from 2016 to 2020. Number 6, Rex Enright was the head coach from 1946 to 1955, had a winning percentage of 500. Now, here we go to the top 5. A who's list of nobodies. No, just kidding. Number 5, Jim Carlin was the head coach from 1975 to 1981, winning percentage 556. Number 4, Warren Geese was the head coach from 56 to 60, winning percentage 571. Number 3, Shane Beamer, present time, winning percentage 577. Number 2, head coach of the Gamecocks from 1983 to 1988, Joe Morrison, winning percentage 582. And the only coach in Gamecock history with a winning percentage over 600 is Steve Spurrier, winning percentage 637. The only one in the history of the program. Like, I understand why so many of you Gamecock fans act like you've been kicked, act like you've been abused. I get it, because you guys have had to digest 80 years of the most foul-smelling suck I've ever seen a program have to digest in the history of college sports. Diesel, to walk down this memory lane is to walk down a pile of crap.
Man, what you just did was you just lined up a bunch of puppies and then kicked each one of them one at a time. And this is a reason why I would caution Gamecock fans to just like tamp down the fervor a little. Make him prove it before you unleash all this fanfare, because we get it, right? Every single day on our text line, every single day on our Facebook page in the comment sections, on YouTube in the comment sections, on Twitter in the comment sections. Everybody is blowing Shane Beamer up like he's God's gift to South Carolina football. And I get it. He's only completed 2 seasons as a coach, and everything feels good right now. But make him prove it before you start issuing all this fanfare, right? Make him prove that he can win at a higher clip than what would you say it was 572?
Correct.
Make him prove it. Stop getting your hopes so high. Stop whipping yourselves up into this fervor. It's like that scene, Mark, in Tommy Boy. You know, the infamous diner scene when he's JoJo the Indian circus boy with his pretty new pet. And then he's like, I love this pet, and I massage it, and I stroke it, and I pet it. It's a naughty pet. You're naughty. And then I killed it. Stop killing your pretty new pet, okay? Relax. Give it time. Let it develop.
71307 on the text line is where you can get to us. Texter says, if condensed MLB games aren't further proof that shortening games is a good thing, I'm not sure what is. I'm watching the condensed games, Texter. I'm liking them.
Condensed games,
absolutely right.
Condensed games are fantastic for media because, let's be real, most broadcasts of any sport are at best 25% action, 75% fluff.
Diesel, I was blown away. Whenever you want to go back and watch a football game that you didn't see live, you sit there with the fast forward button ready to go between plays. You're in and out of that game in less than an hour. The whole game, less than an hour.
Yeah.
You just fast forward the dead time. You just watch the plays. There you go. Texter says, let's see here. Only way Shane Beamer would be the greatest coach of the Gamecocks is if he wins a national championship. So says Sam from Spartanburg. Well, that's exactly what I want to channel here. Okay, that's exactly what I want to get to. Steve Spurrier and how Shane Beamer would beat Steve Spurrier as the GOAT, what he would have to do. Steve Spurrier was the coach at South Carolina for double-digit seasons in total. Steve Spurrier had 5 bowl wins at South Carolina. Shane Beamer has 1. Steve Spurrier had 3 double-digit win seasons, 3, and established a best conference mark of 6-2. He also, we won't talk about what happened in that conference championship game, but he got South Carolina to the SEC championship game. Didn't go well, to say the least, but he got him there, and that is saying something. So there is the mark for Shane Beamer. And folks, I think when you have the right coach, the right head coach is going to blow what Spurrier did out of the water. 6-2 in the SEC is the best he did. Winning the division once, the best he did. 3 double-digit win seasons. How many consecutive years has Clemson won 10 in a row? Seriously, how many have they won 10 in a row? Yeah, there's a Clemson fan right now that knows this. How many consecutive seasons have the Clemson Tigers won 10 games? Is it 9? Is it 10? Is it 11? Steve Spurrier did it 3 times. This is imminently doable, Gamecock fans. Imminently doable for Shane Beamer to become the best coach in South Carolina history. But that's some of what you got to do. You got to win 5 bowl games. You got to try to figure out a way to beat the 6-2 conference mark that Spurrier set. You got to get to the conference championship game more than once. You know, we got a texter that says, Look, man, the only way he passes Spurrier is if he wins a national championship. Sam, there's no way that's true. If he wins an SEC championship, he passes Steve Spurrier. And Shane Beamer has gone from 4th place in 2021 to 3rd place in 2022. If he continues the upward trajectory, he'll be 2nd place this year, 1st place next year in 2024. I don't know why the projections on the Gamecocks are so bad. They're bad for ESPN.com. They're bad for Kelly Ford and the K Ford ratings. The conference record for the Gamecocks this year, according to Kelly Ford, is going to be 3.1 wins and 4.9 losses. He says you're going to be 3-5 in the SEC. It's not going to get it done. You would know as well as I do. That's not going to get it done. Overall record is going to be 5-7 or 6-6, according to most of the models you see. But South Carolina took those numbers and shoved them in the keisters of all of the prognosticators from a year ago. They were much better than expected, and they could do the same thing again. Diesel, I've given you the specifics. I've given you the objective fact of what Beamer needs to do to become the GOAT head coach at South Carolina. I'm going to ask you for a feel. Like from a feeling perspective, how would we be feeling if he was passing Spurrier? What would we be seeing on a year in, year out basis from him?
We would be seeing, obviously, these recruiting wins just keep rolling in year after year after year. So when you start nailing down multiple 5 stars a season, or 1 5-star, 2 5-stars, and then it just continues to build, that's building block number 1 for this. Getting to that, setting that new standard among Gamecock fans that 8 wins is the floor of what you find acceptable. We had people commenting on YouTube videos, oh, if he goes 6-6 and wins a bowl game, I think that's pretty good. No, you got to get those people out of your fan base, and you got to sweep that mindset out of people's minds in this fan base. You got to see South Carolina on national TV in games where they're not necessarily playing Clemson, and you got to see them winning in these games. I'm talking about the featured game of the week at least once a season. And I think those are all doable goals. They are achievable goals for South Carolina. The positivity and the vibe around the program is there. You got to get whoever it is who picks the games weekly on ESPN and CBS and whoever's carrying them this year. You need those people looking at South Carolina as a show. This home environment is a show. We want to feature this on television, and it feels like it's building to that point, right? It feels like those things are achievable.
100% it does. Folks, there have been exactly 5 Gamecock coaches in the last 80 years that left the program with a winning record. Okay? 4 in the last 80 years. Steve Spurrier, Joe Morrison, Warren Geese, and Jim Carlin. 4 in the last 80 years that left the program with a winning record. Shane Beamer's still at the program. He's at 577. Look, man, this is possible. This is very possible. Steve Spurrier set the bar, but the bar isn't set all that highly. You can do it. You can do it. Every single one of you can do it. Believe, my friends, believe. Texter says 600 winning percentage isn't going to keep your job in the SEC unless you are at Vandy. Texter says the last non-10-game winning season was 2011 or 2012 for Clemson. Texter says, let's start with winning at least one SEC championship to start a GOAT conversation. These are the best thing I've heard all day across the board was the Tommy Boy impression.
I love my job.
Hell of a job. By the way, Wes is a Tigers fan. He says, new segment, Mark, with all this game talk, I'm falling asleep at the wheel. What do you guys think? Will Beamer, I think the question to ask is, when Beamer is all said and done, Diesel, is he going to go down as the GOAT South Carolina coach when all is said and done? I'm going to go no, but I think he's got a shot. I think he's got a shot. You're asking me to say Beamer's better than Spurrier. I don't know that I've seen enough to do that today, but that is the question. That is the question, because anything less than the Steve Spurrier level will not be viewed really as a success.
I'm going to say yes, because Shane Beamer is still young enough that he has plenty of time in Columbia to greatly surpass what Steve Spurrier achieved there. It seems to me that he loves South Carolina, he loves Columbia enough that it's going to be very difficult for some other school to lure him away. We're talking about maybe if Alabama came calling, he might go there. Maybe A&M. I don't know. I don't even know. I think he loves South Carolina enough that you're gonna need to hook him up to the rear end of a truck and drag him out of there. I think he's gonna stick around as long as he can.
Yours truly says Steve Spurrier will remain the GOAT when Beamer leaves.
You have to pull him up like a stump.
Diesel believes that Beamer is going to surpass Steve Spurrier. Where do you guys come out on that?
Not that says a whole lot.
844 fan phone is the number. I'm going to tell you when we come back if there's a new best college baseball team in the state. This is Offsides, Mark, Ryan, and Diesel, and we are the Fan Upstate. It's Offsides, Mark Ryan and Diesel. We are the fan upstate. What is going on the diamond? You've heard us talk about the offsides bump. When Clemson baseball's coach, Eric Bakich, came on this show April 3rd, the team had a record of 15-13. Gamecock baseball was flying high. Clemson baseball fans were sticking their heads in the sand saying, we've had nothing to cheer about for way too long. Football, even basketball down year, women's basketball, baseball, the Gamecocks won the series. Do we have anything to cheer about? Then Eric Bakich, new head coach of Clemson baseball, came on this show, and you blink, and here you go. Coincidence, my friends? I think not. A 15-3 record before coming on Offsides, and 18-4 record since, including wins now over the number 8 team in America, Coastal Carolina, all of which and coinciding with the wheels completely falling off at South Carolina. What is going on there? You know, the Gamecocks got swept by Kentucky over the weekend. The Gamecocks lost last night to North freaking Florida. North Florida. Not South Florida. Not even West Florida, which is a Division II school. I lived in Pensacola. That's where they are. They lost last night to North Florida, 8-5. Not getting the pitching anymore, not getting the timely hitting anymore. And we are coming to a place where, folks, you could have not one, but 2 South Carolina baseball programs hosting a regional. Those who cover the Clemson baseball team are not necessarily overly objective. I've seen a lot of people saying with this win, Clemson hosts a regional. That's not guaranteed. But Clemson has clinched a spot in the postseason for the first time since 2019. And Eric Bakich inherited a mess, an absolute mess. Is it fair to wonder, my friends, if the best baseball team in the state of South Carolina is not in the state's capital, but rather is right into rural country in the upstate, right down the road, okay, right there at Clemson? Is that the best baseball playing team in the state right now? I'll tell you, if you replayed Clemson and South Carolina, that baseball series today, I think you would have a much different outcome than what you saw previously. All right, my friends. Coming up next on the show, it is time for the top 5 at 5, the top 5 biggest sports stories of the day, the top 5 topics we're discussing. The top 5 at 5 is next here on Offsides. We are the fan upstate. What is good, my friends? This is the most interactive sports talk show anywhere. It's Offsides, Mark, Ryan, and Diesel, and we are the Fan Upstate, rolling on until 7 p.m. today. Fantastic to have you guys with us. Some breaking news if you happen to be a Gamecock fan, and breaking news in a good way is here to come. On the text line, a texter says, yo, Mark, heard you yesterday mentioning that you could devour some chili dogs. I feel a challenge coming on, says the Greenville Drive hot dog eating champ. Now, texter, I always wonder here, when people say, I bet my life, okay? Like, I bet my life. I know what happens if you lose. You die when you say you bet your life. But what is the win there? Okay, if you say, I bet my life and you win, what do you get? Similarly, I fail to see what the win is here for me. To go head-to-head against the hot dog eating champion from the Greenville Drive, what's the win? The win is that I'm close.
Glory.
Yeah. Glory
Fame.
In the toilet, Diesel. Glory in the toilet, yeah.
We don't value glory enough anymore.
Yeah, no, we don't. We really don't. The win is that I come close, still lose, and then I'm sick the rest of the weekend. Like, I don't know what the win is there. I appreciate that you want to go head-to-head with me. All I can tell you is I think I could put down about 8 or 9 chili dogs in a sitting. Okay? I could put it down. Diesel, what food competition could you win? Now, what food competition would you win, could you dominate in? Now, and I'm not talking
about most or fastest here.
I'm talking about there's no time limit.
Okay.
Okay. You just have to eat the most. And this is not in a competitive eating style.
Okay.
It's just you sitting at a restaurant at your leisure, the food item that you could win the contest. And my mom is a buck nothing. And she swears she could eat an entire half gallon of pralines and cream ice cream. Still to this day, in one sitting, she could eat a half gallon of butter. I think it's butter pecan ice cream.
I think it would be a perfectly cooked steak. My eyes roll back in my head and I just keep going and going and going. I don't know when to stop when it comes to steak. At first I was thinking like thin crust pizza, because Ashley hates thin crust pizza. I love it. It's my favorite. But then I'm thinking like, man, you get to the crust, you get to this bread, it sort of balloons up in your stomach, and you know, you're doing well till you get to the end of it, and then you add this extra little to your stomach. So I'm going to say steak. I think I could do really well there. Like, I remember as a kid.
32 ounces?
Yeah, I remember as a kid watching that episode of King of the Hill where Bobby was dating a girl that was a vegan, and he went vegan for her, which obviously Hank couldn't stand because he's a propane man and he loves cooking meat. And then when they broke up, she broke his heart, and they ran into each other at a steak restaurant that had one of those challenge steaks. And Bobby, this, 15-year-old kid, devours the full 72-ounce steak just to prove that he could. I think I could do it.
72 ounces.
It was massive.
And again, I know what happens if you lose. What happens if you win? When it's the only challenge where you lose when you win, Diesel.
Yeah.
There was a show on this. Did you ever see it? Man versus Food.
Yeah.
There was this guy that would go and try to do all these challenges, and he would complete about half of them.
He's really skinny now.
Dude
he lost
had
a lot of weight.
A cast iron stomach. He did a milkshake challenge that he couldn't pass. Ended up getting sick live on camera.
He was extremely unhealthy for a very long time.
Yeah.
Probably took years off of his life.
So Diesel's claim is that he could down a 72-ounce steak, which is a 6-pound steak.
I didn't say I could do a 72-ounce steak. I said Bobby Hill on King of the Hill did. That's a cartoon.
Well, no.
It's not real.
But you followed that up with saying, I think I could do that too.
Did I say that? No, I didn't. You asked me if I could eat a 38-ounce steak.
I said 32.
32. Okay. I said, yeah, I could eat a 32-ounce steak.
38. Okay.
I can't visualize what a steak that large is. I'm not going to sit here and say, I can eat 110 ounces of steak, because I don't know how big a 110-ounce steak is.
I'm telling you guys, I could eat 10 chili dogs, hot dogs, bun, chili on the hot dog. Okay. I could eat 10, probably 12. All right. I've already had a sitting where I've eaten 35 wings in one sitting, and I could eat, large pizzas are absolutely no problem. I mean, we're probably talking 2 large pizzas I could put down. What is the food contest that you guys could win?
Mark, I have something here that you need to hear because you love chili dogs so much. Everybody, was it Jack and Diane that made chili dogs as famous and as popular as they are? Because there's a guy who turned the song "Life Goes On" sang the whole song with just the lyrics, sucking on a chili dog, and it's fantastic. I think you need to hear this.
Little ditty about Jack and Diane.
Oh wait, this guy didn't do it right. They turn every lyric into sucking on a chili dog, sucking on a chili dog, sucking on a chili dog, sucking on a chili dog.
You guys got the question. What food item could you win a
I
contest
got bamboozled by a YouTube clip.
There you go. It's time for us to do that jam. We call it the Top 5 at 5. The top 5 biggest sports stories of the day. The top 5 topics we're discussing. Ladies and gentlemen of the upstate, Offsiders. The Top 5 at 5 starts right now.
And now, the Top 5 at 5.
And 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Wait for it. Wait for it. Wait for it. Hit it!
Yeah.
5.
At number 5, a Gamecock edition. That's right. Beamer tweeted out a welcome home. I thought that meant it was a new recruit. It was actually a transfer portal commitment. Syracuse defensive lineman Jadius Greer. Defensive lineman comes back home, is from South Carolina originally. He is standing outside the 5-point sign that once donned my name that was writing, "We want Jadius Greer," and they got him. Jadius Greer tweets, "It's great to be home." I don't know, man. I'm not sure how huge of an impact this is. Last year for Syracuse, Greer had 29 tackles, 3.5 sacks, and 1 forced fumble. Could be a rotation player, a rotation addition on the defensive line. And everybody gets a welcome home from Shane Beamer. I'm just not so sure this is the splash Gamecock fans would have liked on that defensive line. Still, we give you all the news and all the latest. Jadius Greer, welcome home from Shane Beamer to you. We'll see what kind of impact you can have on that defensive line. There's opportunity there, man. No Jordan Birch, no Zach Pickens. There is opportunity. Next up,
4.
at number 4, non-sports, but wanted to tell you this quick story nonetheless, was coming home from our outstanding live show in Clemson, South Carolina yesterday at the Ingalls Markets there. Was just an awesome scene, awesome experience. Always blown away. You know, like I don't know. I feel like a lot of people in Clemson have to listen to us, Diesel, on the app. You know, it's far away. The signal can be a little bit spotty down there. Was blown away at the number of people that, hey, Mark Ryan, love the show. Hey, Mark Ryan, love the show. Blown away all the way down in Clemson. And I appreciate the fact that even if those folks do have to listen on the app, that they are, in fact, tuning into us, which is incredible. So I was asking some folks in the area, like, I'm hungry after the show. Where's the place I got to go to after the show? And folks said, if you haven't been to Max Drive-In in Clemson, South Carolina, you're doing it wrong. So I went to Max Drive-In, and it was as simple could be, which was to say it was freaking amazing. To walk into Max Drive-In was to walk into like a 1980s zone in terms of prices. Here's what I mean. Hamburger, $3.90. Cheeseburger, $4.10. I got the double cheeseburger plate. It was $7.35. It came with a full plate of fries and a double cheeseburger. Came home, also grabbed a BLT to go for the wifey. The total bill was $12.43. It was delicious. Angela said it's the best BLT she's had in years. double cheeseburger was off the chain. But here's what really grabbed me. You walk in, you sit at the bar like you would, Diesel, in any diner, right? You walk right up, you sit at the table. And when the meal was done, I go to pay, and they're like, "Oh, we're sorry, sir. We don't accept cards here." And I said, I was unaware of that. And then they said to me, and this is what got me. The waitress says, "Just pay us the next time you're here. No worries."
Wow.
And I said, are you serious?
Surprised you didn't have to go back and wash dishes or something.
Just pay us the next time you're here. No worries. Went back to the car, Diesel, found a checkbook in there. Yeah, I'm that old school, okay? Found a checkbook. Go back in. Do you guys take checks? Why, yes, we do. Gave a $5 tip on the $12.43. Left out of there with $17.43, and I was just blown away by the entire pay us the next time you're here. I didn't know when the next time I would be there was, Diesel. It's like, you got to go back. I live in Greenville, Spartanburg County, so I wanted to pay. They took the check. We paid. Unbelievable experience there, man. Max driving, Clemson, South Carolina. I think it was Alicia who gave me that recommendation yesterday. Max driving for the freaking win, man. For the win. How about that? Absolutely delectable. If you don't know, you better ask somebody because it is incredible. Next up.
3.
At number 3 on the show today, we kicked around a topic. We asked you, will Shane Beamer surpass Steve Spurrier by the time his tenure in Columbia is done? What do you think? Well, in order to tackle that, you first must ask what he must do to wear that crown. Steve Spurrier coached at South Carolina for 11 seasons. He had 3 double-digit win seasons in those 11 seasons. His best mark in the SEC was 6-2. He made it to the SEC championship game, albeit just one time, and they got smoked in that one game. And he had 5 bowl victories with a winning percentage of .637. My friends, in the last 80 years, there has only been 4 coaches in South Carolina football history that have finished their tenure with a winning record at the school. Steve Spurrier, Joe Morrison, Warren Geese, and Jim Carlin. I believe that Beamer's going to fall short of what Spurrier did at South Carolina. Diesel believes he's going to exceed what Spurrier did at South Carolina. Where do you come out on this particular question? Right now, winning percentage last 80 years, Beamer is 3rd with a mark of .577. Pretty solid starts, if you ask me. Next up.
2.
At number 2 today, have we reached a point where we can conclusively say that the best baseball in the state is not played in Columbia, South Carolina? It's not played at Founders Park. It is played right here in the upstate in Clemson, South Carolina. You see, when Clemson was really scuffling and struggling, we had an interview with their head coach, Eric Bakich. And I remember talking to Diesel about this beforehand, and I'm like, Diesel, this is going to be a struggle because things are not going well. And it wasn't a strike against Eric Bakich because he was needing to change the culture of a downtrodden program. But they were 15-13 on April 3rd when Eric Bakich came on the show. They've gone 18-4 since, including wins over number 8 Coastal Carolina. I don't know how the rest of the season is going to wind up in college baseball, but I can tell you that right now, the best team in the state wears orange, and Clemson is really pointing toward hosting a regional. How unbelievable would it be for baseball, college baseball in the state, if Clemson hosted a regional, if South Carolina hosted a regional, and then they met in a super regional? Well, my friends, that is what some prognostications have happening. Unfreaking believable. And finally,
1.
at number 1 today, we went through different sports and asked, from a nationwide perspective, are these sports trending up, trending down, or are they neutral? The NFL stock is way up for me because they've successfully monopolized our sports calendars. The schedule is going to be released tonight by the NFL. We're all going to be online tonight looking at our schedule. Tomorrow we'll do the Carolina Panthers win-loss record with a schedule, and I'll even do it for your favorite team. Okay? But they've got something that commands our attention every single month of the year but June. The NBA, to me, is stock down. Where are all the great teams? There was not one single team in the NBA this year that had a 600 winning percentage. Not one single team in the NBA this year that had a 700 winning percentage. Then you consider the problems that the NBA has, the problems that the NBA is struggling with. Load management is a load of bull. Play a number of games your stars can commit to. There's a real cocky, elitist air to it. Players care more about their opponents than they do about you, the fan. They're routinely seen hugging those teams they play against. Politics are on the front burner, not the back burner. Salaries are out of control, and they play no defense. I can illustrate that. The Cavaliers led the league with a defensive rating of 109.6 this year. Just a few years ago in 2015-2016, the Spurs led the league in defensive rating at 98.2. That means teams are scoring about 11 more points per possession against the league's best defense than they were 7 years ago. Remember the Warriors with Steph and Kevin Durant? They were considered the greatest offensive team of all time. Their offensive metrics would rank them 10th in the league this season. NBA stock down. NHL is stock down for me because the league is blacked out to many. You got to have an individual subscription plan for your team. All the games start at the same time. Ridiculous. MLS, to me, Major League Soccer, stock up because of the fantastic home atmospheres that are there. Major League Baseball, stock way up. Rob Manfred is the most underrated commissioner in sports for what he's done. How about horse racing? Stock way down. Has the Kentucky Derby ever been less relevant? Tennis, stock down. No male American stars and no more Serena Williams. College basketball, stock up. What is hurting the sport in college football is helping college basketball. The transfer portal and NIL has led to unpredictability, has led to the first year in the tournament where we had 0 teams seeded 1, 2, or 3 in the Final Four. Everybody has a chance, as evidenced by UConn, number 4 seed, winning the national championship. College football for me, stock down. College football playoff feels like a money grab. There's no parity, and there's bidding wars for players. I don't think that's good for the sports. And finally, UFC for me, stock down. If you aren't a hardcore UFC guy, how many fighters, honestly, can you name without looking it up? Go.
Well, and it's a generally distasteful sport to a lot of people. A lot of people don't want to watch combat sports. They don't want to watch people, split each other's foreheads open. Some people like it. That's cool if that's your thing. But there's a large portion of Americans who just don't want to watch that.
And those are today's top 5 at 5. Now it's your chance to chime in, which you can do at 844-FAN-PHONE. That's 844-FANFONE. That's 844-326-3663. The text line is there for you at 71307 to start your text with the word fan, and away you go. You can get to us on Facebook and on Twitter at The Fan Upstate. We'd love to have you like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, and subscribe to us where we're broadcasting right now on our YouTube channel at The Fan Upstate. And finally, email. You guys can all email the show. Mark Ryan, that is MARC Ryan, at thefanupstate.com. all the different ways you can get in touch with us here on the most interactive sports radio show anywhere. Coming up next on the show, does Clemson still have a dynasty? What are your dynasty criteria? That's next. This is the most interactive sports talk show anywhere. It's Offsides, Mark, Ryan, and Diesel, and we are the Fan Upstate.